Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about depression. As I have learned psychology from my professor at college, I want to talk about this topic. The reason is depression becoming more and more prevalent among us. Each of us could become depressed by our surrounding environments, long-time stress loadings, and tough lives, etc. As I watched one YouTuber video, a woman who had serious depression and mind fully pressure across her life that led her to suicide. Fortunately, she was finally saved. Although she is fine, whether she would choose to suicide again, this is a good question to ask. Hopefully, she can start seeking some professional help and never happens. Also for each of us. I am not a professional, just want to share what I learned. In the aspect of psychology, depression that considered as mood disorder. Mood disorder means mood and emotions as the major symptoms that affected us. For example, if someone had a low mood, which can call a lower depressed mood, that leads us to a sense of sad feeling, a sense of hopelessness, or a number of negative types of feelings. Typically speaking, there are two types of depression that fall under mood disorder. One is manic depression, which also called bipolar depression, and the another one is called unipolar depression. Let's first talk about unipolar depression. It used to be called melancholia, a kind of sustained low depressed mood. This depression could last a long period of time, or a number of weeks. If someone who had unipolar depression could always depressed, it's a reoccurring depression with very serious low mood. Not only feeling deeply sadness and hopelessness, but yet also inability to experience pleasure in the common life, like things someone used to like that brought pleasure to them, but now not at all. For example, walk in the park to enjoy the nature, listen to your favorite music, eat your favorite food, play your favorite sports, etc. This depression can lead someone really lack energy and motivation, and very negative combination thoughts. One of the most important psychologists called Aaron Beck, who did research into unipolar depression. When someone was depressed caused by their negative thinking, they usually had a negative thought about themselves, negative thought about the world including other people, and pessimistic about the future. They only thought about negative sides and kind of hopelessness for everything. Back to psychologist Beck, who was trained in both psychoanalysis and cognitive psychologist. He is interested in conscious thought. His method was to listen to his patients to talk about their experiences in their lives, what they were feeling and what they were thinking. He found that depressed patients really interfere with their lives and out being able to get pleasure along with their negative thought patterns. Back treatment was to challenge his patients in logical thinking. For example, someone might look smart and attractive, very sociable, well done in school. They have close friends who care about them. They have a loved family or are being loved. Now they are depressed and they describe themselves as terrible people, really bad, really moral. They have done bad things. Their relationships are phony. No one likes them. They pretend and so on. Beck would tell his patients, "Well, you said those things didn't make any sense because you taught those things before. How could that be true?" This approach was helpful with a certain number of patients he treated. However, some research has shown whether the approach was really benefited these patients. Beck was a candid man and trained to know how to take developmental approach. He believed that things happened in the past for those individuals that could influence their current thinking. Beck's treatment was helpful and understanding in the relationship of caring for his patients by using cognitive therapy. In his therapy, don't criticize someone's thought and try to wonder where that feeling may come from or where that thought may come from. In some degrees, yet more like the emotion release therapy. Nowadays, we call cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, is a type of therapy that aims to identify and change negative thoughts and behaviors that contribute to mental health issues. CBT can be used to treat a range of mental health conditions, including depression and bipolar disorder. Additionally, Beck did not initially incorporate behaviorism into his therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy does combine cognitive and behavioral techniques. You may be interested to know what is cognitive behavior therapy, which means change someone's behaviors directly to identify someone's behavior cause in their unhappy lives or not adapted to their life by therapists, and give them exercises and something to do to change their behaviors, also involved in thinking directly. Now let's talk about manic depression, which can be called bipolar disorder. It had extremely higher rates in suicide than unipolar depression. It runs in the family and sometimes can be triggered by the environment. Manic depression had a very high mood with excessively happiness unrealistic state. For example, Virginia Woolf and Winston Churchill both suffered from manic depression. Someone who had manic depression first goes to manic state. They have a high positive feelings with unrealistic thoughts about the world, themselves, everything possibilities. They love everyone. Everyone is amazing. Everything is amazing, such as cancer can be cured, no poverty, no suffering, etc. All the problems will be solved in their mind. At the same time, cognition thinking goes repeatedly. They also can be very creative and productive on their thoughts. People like to be with them and talk to them, have fun with them. They are very energetic and happy and positive because they are ready to fix everything. As they reach the peak of mania, they start to think in a very confused way that doesn't make any sense. They couldn't accomplish anything when they were doing things in an illogical and disorganized way. Some of those individuals even hallucinate and delusions or in their illogical thoughts. For example, they think they could fly because they had superpowers. They don't need to eat anything anymore because their body is so pure and healthy. Or they can give all the money to eliminate the poverty. In a manic stage, those individuals can end up together in trouble financially. They consumed all the money they might not have that much, or they could have that much to spend or give away or do something in illogical ways. Someone who suffered from this depression, they are not always in this stage. They can feel quite well and function normally, or they could not. During the manic state, someone fully energetic, even no sleep for a couple of days, a high emotion and mood state that triggers the brain stays awake. When someone finally fall into depression, that they got exhausted, they could fall asleep for a number of days and fall into a deep depression. Furthermore, manic depression is common, exists in someone's childhood. The two main factors are predisposing and precipitating. Predisposing factors mean something that happened in someone's childhood are more likely to develop psychological disorder in old age. For example, Virginia Woolf suffered from sexual abuse during her childhood, so it led her vulnerable to develop disorder in her later if there is any other stress in her life occurred. Second time, she lost her mother at the age of 13. That immediately caused her mentally ill. That was called a precipitating factor. Research found that some people who had manic depression are also creative, like Virginia Woolf. She created a lot of her ideas in her novels during her manic phase. Unfortunately, she ended her life by drawing herself at the age of 61. She wrote a letter to her husband about her plan to kill herself. The reason was her recognize her earlier symptoms and being through it so many times. She becomes manic again. She called go mad, and she couldn't face it again. So she chose to end up her lives. What a sad story to hear about Virginia Woolf. Hopefully this share will let you know some knowledge about depression as I learned from my psychology professor, and I hope you enjoy watching.